This is my out of the home theater review for Masters of the Universe on 4K. Now this movie is streaming exclusively on Amazon Prime as of this video, so you can't rent it or buy it on digital or on physical media just yet. So if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can stream it right now with ads or without ads, depending on your status on your Amazon Prime subscription. Now I'm not going to talk about how good or bad this movie is. I'm just going to go over the audio and video quality. But first, let's go over a few tech specs. This movie was shot in 8.6K. It's got a 4K DI. It's rated PG-13. Runtime is 140 minutes. Aspect ratio is 239:1, and the audio is in Dolby Atmos. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the audio, then we're going to jump over and talk about the video quality, then I'm going to give my scores. But what we're going to do first is we're going to check out the Dolby Atmos Object Viewer and see how active this audio mix is. And if you don't know what the Dolby Atmos Object Viewer is, it's going to show you what speakers are active in this audio mix. So the green boxes are going to be the active speakers, the black boxes are going to be the inactive speakers, and the little yellow balls are going to be the effects. So the effects can be anything like lasers, gunshots, people screaming, voices, stuff like that. And those yellow balls can move around different speakers and scale to any number of speakers that you have in your surround setup. Now I've got 18 speakers, all exactly the same. They are from Krix. I have 8 subwoofers, all from RBH, and my projector is a Sony Bravia 8, and I am projecting on a 170-inch projection screen. Now if you want links to all of the associated gear that I use for these 4K reviews, that can be found down below in this video's description. All right, so I was pretty excited to check out this movie at home because when I saw it in the IMAX, that had some of the best bass response in any movie that I've heard this year, except for maybe Tron Ares, which I thought that Masters of the Universe would hold up pretty well against it because both movies sounded pretty kick-ass in the IMAX that I saw it in. So let's go ahead and see what this audio mix is doing on this Amazon digital stream. All right, so right from the start, coming in at around 19 minutes, 15 seconds, we have the first attack on Castle Grayskull. Here we've got Skeletor's ships that are zipping all around the air, and you can hear them moving from front to back and forth, all within the height channels and the lower bed channels. So really good surround sound panning in this specific scene. And if you couldn't tell, this is a dynamic mix. So those yellow balls are the objects, which are basically the ships that are zipping back and forth. So this is a dynamic mix and not just a static mix. And then coming in at around 36 minutes, 30 seconds is the attack by Beastman. So he's attacking Tila and Adam on the bridge. He's jumping from car to car. You can hear him in the different speakers in the rear speakers. However, not too much going on in the top channels until the second half of this attack, where you do get the top channels. All 6 of my top channels will become active. Now keep in mind, even though they are really active, it's basically just some really light extension from the bottom channels up top, and also some really light music up in the top channels. So there's not really any substantial surround effects happening up top. Most of the heavy surround is going to be in the bed channels. And you're going to see that this is true for most of the action scenes in this movie. Now, at around 1 hour and 29 seconds in, this is the first time that we have Adam changing into He-Man. So we have some really good thunder effects in the top channels. Then we have this really deep bass drop when we get that sonic boom that expands outwards into the soundstage. Now, this doesn't dig into the infrasonics, but then again, neither did the IMAX version, but it does hit pretty hard, which I'm going to say in around the 40 to 50 hertz range. And then after that, we have another aerial chase at around 1 hour and 5 minutes in. So we have Skeletor's bad guys chasing after the good guys. There's some really good front to back movement, so aerial movement a la Top Gun Maverick type of thing. So we have a lot of dog fighting in the air. Then we have some good laser blasts that are panning throughout the different bed layer channels. And then there is some pretty good musical extension up top. I would have liked a little bit more aggressive surround usage in the top channels to demonstrate that the ships are flying overhead. But again, it's just really light musical extension that is happening in the top channels. So not too much in the way of directional effects in those top channels. And then at 1 hour 21 minutes, we have a Skeletor monologue who seems to be floating in the air holographically, and his voice booms out from the front stage and in the top front channels. So you get a little bit of extension to the lower bed channels and then a bit of extension in the top rear channels as well to, again, open up the soundstage to make it sound like he's larger than life. And then the scene that really impressed me at the IMAX presentation is the last fight between Skeletor and He-Man, which comes in at around 2 hours. So here in the IMAX presentation, every time He-Man would punch Skeletor, there would be so much chest blasting bass. It almost became almost unbearable in the IMAX theater that I saw it in. Here, for the home presentation, keep in mind that this is a digital stream and it's going to max out at around 10 to 15 megabits per second for the Amazon streams. And the audio mix in this is definitely dynamically challenged. So it didn't hit as hard, or really quite as hard, as the IMAX presentation. However, I think if you wanted to turn up your LFE or your subwoofers another 6 to 10 dB, you could probably recreate that sensation. But as is, on my calibrated levels, it just fell short of what I heard in the IMAX. It still sounded good, but definitely nowhere near as chest thumping as what I heard at the local cinema. Now, coming straight from The Mandalorian and Grogu, where I thought that Rhoda the Hutt's voice sounded really good, really chesty out of the center channel, I got the same sensation with Skeletor's voice. So he's got a really deep, manly, mid-range heavy voice, and it really permeates out of that center channel. So if you have a really capable center channel speaker, Skeletor is going to sound booming coming out of that thing. And of course, the rest of the dialogue sounded really good as well. Now, as far as video quality wise, this looked great on my display. But again, keep in mind, this is an Amazon digital stream, and Amazon typically doesn't have the best streaming quality out of all the streaming services. So I did notice that static shots where there wasn't a lot of movement, or somebody was just standing straight ahead and not really moving, that those shots would be really 4K crispy, ultra sharp, and really detailed. So close-up shots like that looked wonderful. When there would be some movement or some action, then that's when the lower bitrate really kind of reared its head, and you can see some little jaggy edges. The image became a bit more softer, a little bit more snowy looking, more motion artifacts. It wasn't as bad as I'm making it sound, but it definitely didn't look as good as the static shots. And it definitely didn't look as good as something on iTunes or maybe even Netflix. Well, maybe it might be better than Netflix, because lately Netflix has been kind of looking like trash lately. But I would say that as far as like detail and resolution wise, it was kind of hit and miss for this stream. But the HDR in this looked fantastic. It's got some really nice colors in this, really nice bright HDR vividness, nice primary colors, reds, greens, blues, yellows. All that stuff looked wonderful. Blue skies, really bright and vibrant for the daytime stuff. And then for the darker stuff, the stuff in Grayskull or in Snake Mountain, that looked great. Nothing was being crushed in the shadows. The specular highlights really did jump off the screen, from the explosions, from the lasers. All the bright highlights really did jump off the screen, and it looked good not only in my projector, but in my TV as well. When the resolution did kick in and look really good, I would say that the ultra fine detail, again, like in the close-up shots, you will notice pores and wrinkles. The costuming, the texture, you can tell clearly, again, just like the Mandalorian's armor, you can see that Man-at-Arms armor definitely looked like it was made out of plastic and just like airbrushed on. I think they even airbrushed some abs and muscles on He-Man's character, Nicholas Galzine's character. So when he's wearing the He-Man vest, certain angles it just looked like he had some airbrushed abs, a la very much like they did in the movie 300. And then, of course, the CG effects, they looked very CG, but again, given the context of the movie, I give it a pass. I would say that it would look it kind of reminded me of the CG effects in the first Black Panther, where it just kind of looked good to bad, but still, given that this is He-Man, I thought it was more acceptable in He-Man than it was in Black Panther. But overall, I thought this was a decent enough stream. I am going to have to check this out once it drops on physical media, 4K Blu-ray, to see the big difference between the resolution, the fidelity, how much more tighter and cleaner the image is going to look, because this Amazon digital stream just really didn't do it for me. The color in HDR, I'm sure, will look very similar to what's going to be on the physical media disc. So I'm going to go, I don't want to go into the 5 area, but I'm probably going to go with like a 6.5 for video quality for this Amazon digital stream. I'm sure, again, it's going to look better on 4K Blu-ray. So whenever that comes out, I'm definitely going to have to revisit this movie once again, because I'm kind of a fan of this movie now. I did grow up with He-Man, so I was really looking forward to watching this at the house. So I was definitely kind of let down that the video presentation wasn't as good as I was expecting it to look. Now, audio quality wise, coming from The Mandalorian and Grogu, where Disney typically doesn't have the best audio mixes. However, they did do Tron Ares at the beginning of the year, which I think is a solid 10 overall. So Disney's kind of been up in their game recently. And The Mandalorian and Grogu, while it wasn't fantastic sounding, still I think I gave it like an 8.5, 8.6, which I think is really good. This, however, I really thought it was going to be as good as Tron Ares. I thought it was maybe slightly less dynamic than The Mandalorian and Grogu. Base response was a little bit, I'm going to say base response was a notch below The Mandalorian and Grogu, so you will have to bump up your LFE. Your volume, I think the volume was a little bit better than The Mandalorian and Grogu. I think I only had to bump it up maybe about 8 or 9 dB, where I had to really jack up to like 15 dB on Mandalorian and Grogu. So as far as like spatial quality wise, I would say The Mandalorian and Grogu sounded better. This one definitely was more compressed sounding, again, more dynamically challenged. So I am hoping that the 4K Blu-ray, the physical media release, is going to sound a lot better, which I'm sure it's going to. Because once again, these Amazon streams kind of max out around 10 to 15 megabits per second. So that's kind of really low for a 4K presentation. Now the surround effects, I was definitely hoping for some more directional effects in the top channels, whereas mostly it was just a lot of musical extension and some light ambiance. However, the really big aerial stuff, that did sound really good with a lot of movement within the bed channels and the occasional zip over top channel as well. So for those specific scenes where the dynamic objects are present, that sounded really good. But for a lot of this movie, it was basically kind of like a 7.2.1 presentation for a lot of the time this movie. For, I'm going to say maybe 50-60% of this movie, that's what it was, and it was mostly a static mix. So half and half between static and dynamic. I'm going to go with an 8 for audio quality. Now again, I'm going to revisit this movie once it comes out on physical media, which I'm sure is going to sound a lot better and look a lot better. But anyways, did you guys check out this movie on Amazon Prime? If you have an Amazon Prime account, then go check it out. If you grew up in the 80s and you like the toys, I say check it out. Much better than that He-Man cartoon on Netflix, that's for sure. But leave your comments down below and let me know your experience with this Amazon Prime stream of Masters of the Universe. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to continue the conversation on Masters of the Universe, check me out on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Shane Lee. I'll catch you in the next video.